think some interesting observations were made by Hassan in terms of the Jewish lobby and their response to South Africa's reaction to this ICJ matter. And obviously, what crossed my mind is the fact that they are huge investors in the Western Cape and in the South African markets. And South Africa being the breadbasket of Africa, with a lot of opportunities and facilities, and the mining sector being so strong, the West cannot allow South Africa to drift. So they're always going to have an interest and protect the interests of South Africa. Now, coming to the elections, I think the West is having a close look at who's in control. And obviously, it suits them with CR being in control because he's a capitalist and he believes in economic activity. So, in your view, how do you see the political outlook in 2024? Give us a crystal or a bird's eye view of what you think will happen. Because obviously we cannot let Iran slide, and we also cannot let there be political turmoil. We know that there's a lot of challenges. People are talking about smaller parties getting involved. Hassan mentioned that the ruling party will start improving service delivery, curtailing load shedding, etc. So, in a nutshell, how do you see the political outlook?
Thanks, Eunice. Just quickly, I think Hassan's made some telling points, but I don't think that the ICJ, ICC. If you listen to Mansour Sheikh as well, he touched on also a very good point, like Hassan. I think the ICJ issue is going to be a storm in a teacup. Storm in a teacup.
The end of nowhere.
It's the end of it. I'll tell you why.
Because America will just veto it.
Apart from America, Ukraine took Russia to the ICJ.
Ended up nowhere.
Russia lost the case. Just a few months ago, a year or so. Russia lost the case. What happened? Russia is a superpower. They got veto power. Nobody can touch them. So what happens?
So they vetoed
They vetoed it. So these become, in English, exercises in futility. Right? And
which means that the ICJ is a toothless body.
it's a toothless body. America, by the way, is not a member of the ICC. They created the biggest injustices in the world, throughout the world. They're not a member of the ICC. Nobody can touch them.
So effectively, these superpowers are the bullies of the world.
Well, the history or the origin of the genesis of superpower is these guys won World War I and II. We didn't. We make the most noise, but we got nothing to offer. All we do is make a lot of hullabaloo, a lot of noise. We do nothing.
Well, we don't have the authority to do it.
Absolutely.
We don't have the arms and ammunition.
But
and we're just a country that survived because of...
But apart from arms, South African total GDP, not revenue, GDP is not even as big as California. And California is only a state. California's got the 5th biggest economy in the world. Our economy is as big as Houston. And Houston is the 10th biggest city in America. So what's my point? My point is that we must stop focusing on stuff that doesn't take us anywhere and get our own house in order. And the problem we have come 2024 is that there's a lot of din, there's a lot of noise about MK. And MK is just another ANC painted with a different label. Jacob Zuma said it very clearly in all his platforms that we want to rescue the ANC from Cyril Ramaphosa. But we want to take everything back. Now, the challenge he has is that his wife lost a contested election or elective conference in 2017. His man, Zweli Mkhize, lost a contested election in 2021 or 22, whenever it was. 2022. We were in the studio then. So 2022, which is last, was it 22? Yeah, 2022. So you can't win, you can't take over a party. Well, you can, but it's illogical to try and take over a party from the outside and hope to transform it from the inside. So we're saying to listeners, because that's a whole ethos of what we talk about, is that wolves come in sheep's clothing. Let's not be scared to say it. Wolves come in sheep's clothing. How do we know that? We saw in 2021, our people voted for small parties. What happened in the end? Nothing. Overport in particular, nothing. Phoenix, nothing. Sparks Estate, Sydenham, you name it. Marion Ridge, Pietermaritzburg in particular. Pietermaritzburg is one of the worst run cities in KZN. And they get zero, when I say zero, they do get services, but the services are torrid, poor. And it's mainly in minority areas, northern suburbs like Northdale, Racetorp, Bombay Heights, Allendale, Orient Heights, Eastwood, Glenwood, Mountain Rise. Poor services. Because our people don't think when they vote. They vote for the guy who says the most, or the guy who comes and stands in the little soapbox and says all the nice words. And then all he does is he fills his own pocket. What he's about becomes a family affair. We've got to think carefully who we vote for. Secondly, look at the ideology of a political party. We now know that the Democratic Alliance, and they've come out very clearly yesterday through Helen Zille, that they will back Israel come what may. That's their right. The ANC is saying they're backing Palestine. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. And you were there when I told Duduzane. You were there. I told Duduzane, and he actually agreed with me. One, be very careful of being lulled into a Palestinian issue and not worry about your own issue. South African issue. Right? Why? The ANC, the very same ANC everybody's clapping about, put a bill before Parliament, which is sitting in the President's office, through the Minister of Labour and Employment, called the Triple B Act of 2023, Amendment Act, which said that minorities, in particular, coloureds in the Western Cape, who are the majority, would now be the second biggest majority. In other words, Africans, black Africans, who are a minority in the Western Cape, now get all the economic activity. The same applied to the Northern Cape, where coloureds are the majority. They would then be reduced. And then you came to Durban. People of Indian origin, who constitute between 20 and 25% of the Durban economic sector, economically active, that's what the law says. They would only get 11%. They would be reduced by 50%. Nobody's saying a word. But people are excited about the issues of Palestine, Gaza, the issues of MK, and they're forgetting that the same guys have lulled them into a trap. And tomorrow, majoritarianism rules. So the principle of protection of minority rights no longer applies. You're so focused on Gaza because that's what the ANC very conveniently wants to get you focused on. So you don't focus on the local issue, you're gone. I'm saying you need to have a dual approach. As a voter, focus on your issues in this country. Gaza they'll deal with. Gaza needs to have a negotiated settlement. War never wins anything. I can tell you now, nowhere in the world has wars won. Ultimately, everything comes down to a negotiated settlement. the same Yasser Arafat, Shimon Peres, Bill Clinton, Madeleine Albright, they signed the Oslo Accord so that people could co-govern and live peacefully amongst themselves. You can't get the Israelis out now. It's too late. You had your chance. The United Nations overruled it. The big superpowers made that deal. It cannot be reversed. Why do you think Egypt is not getting involved? Why do you think Saudi Arabia is not getting involved? Because they know, they are realists, that there are some things that you cannot do. You know what the solution is? A negotiated settlement. Coming back to local, be very careful who you vote for. I was sitting at the gala dinner, and a gentleman said to me, and somebody said it just now, as a Muslim, he said, I love the ANC because they give us freedom of religion. We can make azan, we can do this, that, and the other. I said, brother, freedom of religion is in the Constitution, not given to you by the ANC. Ask yourself about economic activity. Look at issues of Nelson Mandela School of Medicine, where people of Indian origin have to have quotas, irrespective of their academic qualifications. Look at the economy and see where the exclusions are. Vote based on that, not based on the fact that you have the ability to do azan. Those are the issues we're saying. 3 is we're not going to be able to get rid of the Jews in South Africa. We're not. Because they're even in the ANC. Ronnie Kasrils was one of them. Albie Sachs was a Constitutional Court judge. He was one of them. Supreme Court, Constitutional Court Judge Cameron, he was one of them. They in everywhere. How do we resolve the problem? We've got to find in this country a solution that takes into consideration all of us. How do we do that? Number 1, stop voting for people who have no experience, no political empiricism, who know nothing about the history of this country. Popcorn Johnny-come-latelys. Vote for people you know can make a difference, but be careful that you're not lulled by this MK or the ANC, because ultimately they're all going to be one. Lastly, MK, EFF, Magashule, Halomisa, and all these leftist organizations, their intent, revenge, is to get rid of Ramaphosa. They're not going to get rid of him. The ANC will be reduced, no doubt about that. They'll go down to mid 30%. But guess what? There's the deal. Here's the deal. Big business wants Ramaphosa. They don't want Jacob Zuma. Right? Big business will fund Ramaphosa. They won't fund Jacob Zuma. Right? Because his policies are more radical, whether we agree or not. So what will big business do? Big business funds the DA. The same Cyril Ramaphosa ANC will do a deal with the DA and they'll run this country. Right? Because that's how the cookie crumbles. Because if the leftists take over, the rand will go between 25 and 30 to the USD. We need a stable economy. We need a stable currency. We need to get people working. We can't be fighting internal ANC issues and voting based on ANC issues. We've got to vote for what is right, and we've got to vote for what our own children deserve, not what other people's children deserve. I end there.